about their experiences as being caregivers. It is a set of twins, Dr. Tara Rennick and Dr. Cookie Smith, and they're going to come to you in their own way right now. Give them a round of applause.
First of all, I want to thank Ms. Jenkins for inviting us to come and share a special part of our story of our mom that we took care of with breast cancer. I'm going to let my sister do the majority of the talking because it's still a very emotional journey for me. And but I want to say she could not have had better caregivers, a nurse and a social worker. For all you ladies that have experienced breast cancer, we do know your story and your experience firsthand. We also had a mother that was very strong, pushing forth in her health, and she was strong in her faith. And so we still continue this journey with her, and we have the pleasure of sharing her story. And so I'm going to let my sister start off and kind of give you guys a little synopsis of what we went through with her.
She's the crybaby. So this is how our caregiving story went. She calls me on the telephone and she says, "Does she have cancer?" And I said, "Yes." And she says, "You know she's moving in with you, right?" So at that moment, I saw my life flash before my eyes.
Wait, let's stop there. Only because she had the most room in her house.
But anyway, but at that point in time, we devised a plan that my mom would come and live with me because I had the most room in my house. But she actually ended up pretty much living with me because she was with us every single day. But we devised a plan where my mom was going to get her treatments. We moved her to Hattiesburg. We already had the doctor set up with my sister working in the medical field. She pretty much knew all the doctors with Hattiesburg Clinic and Forest General. So that was kind of like a piece of cake, getting treatment. But what wasn't a piece of cake is having your mother, whom you had not lived with since the age of 18, move into your house. Right? So talking about modesty, and we heard one of the survivors talk about, the breast. Our mother was very modest and taking care of herself. She didn't really want anyone to see her and didn't really want people to see her go through the journey. But with all of that being said, she did it like a champ. She never complained. And even when there was times when we thinking she was going to complain and we're freaking out, she's like, "What's wrong with you guys? Why are you crying?" So she was uplifting us as she was going through her journey. And so during that time, me being modest and not like having people in my house, I had to employ, and we had to employ several caregivers to help take care of our mom. Because in the midst of her treatment, our mother ended up suffering a stroke on December 31st, 2012. She survived the stroke, did very well with it, but over the course of time, her breast cancer metastasized. So her health slowly declined tremendously. And so we had to reach out to family members, and we did not want negative people around us. We wanted positive people because our mother was very positive. I mean, she prayed every day. Her faith never wavered in any way whatsoever. She never questioned God. If she did, she never told us about it, but she would just say, "Pray about it. Why are you upset? Pray about it. Everything is going to be okay." And so even when we're trying to redo things in our life and move things here, move things there, she's telling us, "Why are you doing that? Your life has to go on with or without me." But at that time, we're thinking, "You are our life." So everything that we were putting on the table was for her. But she helped us put things in check with caregiving responsibilities. And we tag team. She lived with me, so I had my mom pretty much all day throughout the night. My sister comes over after work. And then on the weekends, we kind of had our own life. Like we scheduled. Are you crying? Cry, baby. I feel like I want to do this all the time. So I'm not a crier, so when I see her cry, I'm like, Jesus. But so we tag team, but it was important for us to kind of have our own life. She's married, to spend time with her family, her children, and for me to do things with my children. And we scheduled vacations. Like I said, we employed our family members who my mom was close to come in. Thursday through Sunday, we had a family member that came, that cooked. We had a special friend that cooked for our mother like every single week. And if you guys didn't know my mom, she owned a restaurant all of her life. So cooking and soul food was her thing, right? So we made sure that she had everything that she wanted. And the one thing that you need to know about becoming a caregiver is that you cannot change this diagnosis. You can't. Regardless, you can fluff it, you can put a pillow behind it, you can dress it up, but you cannot change the diagnosis. And so for us, we accepted it. Our mother accepted it from day one. It was harder for her siblings because our mother was the glue to her family. So it was very difficult for her siblings to accept it. And so every time we would go to the doctor's office or go to a doctor's visit, or my mother had a hospital stay, our phones were constantly ringing. I'm not a telephone person, so they would call me because she lived with me. I wouldn't answer the phone. She's sitting right beside me. She's like, "Are you going to answer your phone?" "No, I'm fine." And so, because you have to tell that story over and over and over again. And what happens when you tell that story is that you are creating trauma to your body tremendously, to your brain, to your heart, and it plays with your emotions. So sometimes you just have to get away from it all. And so the most important thing as a caregiver is having that respite time away from your family, away from those caregiving responsibilities, having an emergency backup plan. Like I said, we got away, we employed our family members, we had caregivers to come in and take care of our mother. And it was a very, very difficult thing, but we knew in order to survive going through this with our mother, we had to do it, because if we didn't, we were no good to her. So there's a lot of stressors that come with caregiving, but you have to take care of yourself. You have to eat right. You have to make sure you're following up. I'm talking like a medical professional now, but I'm sorry. But you have to follow up with your primary care, because stress on your body is really, really bad. Depression is really bad. So you have all these adverse effects from being a caregiver. Eating right, exercising, just taking care of yourself, having fun and laughing, music. All the things that my mother enjoyed doing, it didn't stop because of the diagnosis, even though we wanted it to, but we kept it going. And so when she passed away, it was very, very difficult, especially on this one right here. I think I accepted it more because she lived with me, so I saw the transition and I prepared for it more emotionally. And they had more of a special connection for some reason, because she was just a little weakling when she was born. But at the time when she passed away, the acceptance was, my mother's not here, and yes, I miss her dearly, but she's not suffering. And so with all of the caregivers in the room, and for those who have survived it, even when you say, "Hey, I'm cancer-free," that journey never stops. That education never stops. The advocacy never stops. It continues to go on for the rest of your life. There's not a day that goes by that I don't wear something pink. Not because I'm an AKA, but because of the fact that I fought that journey with my mother. And we are survivors because we get to tell her story. We get to tell her faith, how strong her faith was, how much she prayed about it. And if you follow us on social media, we post a scripture pretty much every single day. Something uplifting, because that's what our mother did for us. She did not let us forget that even though you are caregivers to me, you are still an individual and you have to go on with your life. Now, after this journey, it's never the same. As you guys see, look at this pink in the room. There's a lot of power in here. So together with this power that you have, you continue to educate. And you don't stop going to the doctor. You keep going. And if something is not right, you talk to your primary care about it. You say, "Hey, my body is changing." It could be age. I get it. We're all getting wiser. But listen to your bodies. Listen to what your body is telling you. And always tell that story. And this is the appropriate time to tell your story about breast cancer and the journey and surviving it. The rest of the year, you plan for next year, right, Ms. Jenkins? So you tell your story. You have different times of the year that you tell your story, only because you don't want your body to continually go through that trauma that you went through with the stressors being a caregiver, being a survivor, and fighting this journey. Do you want to say something else?
We had Dr. Whitehead and Dr. Douglas and a couple of breast cancer survivors kind of say how they found breast cancer and how breast cancer is treated in the surgery process. When my mom was diagnosed, it was well stage advanced, stage 4. And I'm sure she knew she had breast cancer for a long, long time. But when she was diagnosed, she was given 24 hours to live. She lived almost 2 years to the day. Through the journey of taking care of her, I would ask little questions, because she didn't give a lot of information because she was a very strong lady. But when she was diagnosed, she had left breast cancer, which was localized right there to the breast in the beginning. She had a gaping wound, as size as I can put my fist, probably up to my elbows through her chest wall.
Because initially when she was diagnosed, they did a biopsy. And so her body basically rejected the biopsy. So it caused this wound and it bled out.
Very vascular.
Very vascular.
But she had the wound. She said in the beginning she thought it was an abscess and she treated it. She had not been to a doctor in almost 25 years. And it was her 6-week appointment when she had my little brother. And up until she was diagnosed for 2 or 3 years, I would say, you're of this age, you need a mammogram, you need to go to your GYN and have a PAP. I would talk to her about it. I had several appointments scheduled that same year she was diagnosed, and she would always cancel the appointment and say something came up, she couldn't go, she had to work, and she couldn't find anybody to take her place in the restaurant. And I think she knew then and didn't want the diagnosis. But from day one of her diagnosis, she gave us a whole list of things, what she wanted, what she didn't want. She never wanted surgery.
Never. And never had surgery.
Never had surgery, never wanted surgery. And so she never had the opportunity to have surgery. But when I didn't think I would see her wound healed, it did heal. Even when she passed away, she was as beautiful as I could remember as a little girl. So with that being said, if you know something is wrong, even if you are scared, because us as women, and I can say African American standpoint, women, we run our household. We say the man is the head of our household, but we take care of the household with a man's help. And that was the thing with my mom. She was a very strong lady. She held her household. She was a single parent to 3 kids, remarried. And then after my stepdad passed, she was a single parent again to our 2 brothers. So she was a very strong lady. So we just have to be knowledgeable that even though we're caregivers to our family, we run our household, we have to take time and take care of ourselves. So I just wanted to pass that on to you guys because, early diagnosis is the key to a good prognosis. Thank you, guys.